back. Today we are playing a Is It Through the Reach deck that is also featuring a secondary combo. That combo is Brainsurge plus Calibrated Blast. A lot of nice overlap since you're already wanting to play a lot of big, chunky Eldrazi in the deck anyways, and you could just put them on top with the Brainsurge and then blast your opponent. One thing that's really nice about this list too is playing like so many like just 3-mana spells with 2 generic in their pips. Lets you just like cast one of these on turn 2. I've also just been like casting Calibrated Blasts like kind of aggressively and just flashing it back and really chunking my opponents. And then one thing that like really kind of sold me on this list too is that you have a secondary enabler for Calibrated Blast in Kozilek's command. Kozilek's command just kind of does everything. This card is crazy, but it also sets up the top of your library for Calibrated Blast. The Surveillance also help too, but I have been really happy to have like a secondary combo in this shell. And so the deck is pretty mean, pretty lean, pretty clean. You are trying to power this out as quickly as possible, and you get to play a little bit of interaction in the form of the K commands, a couple Fire Ices, and Snare. Snare is just kind of crazy in this deck. Like, it lets you beat Counterspell game 1. Some of the more popular combo decks like Goryo, Storm, to a lesser extent Soul Trader, but Soul Trader is kind of weak to Snare too. Just very good against those, very good against Boros Energy. I was main decking Consigns and Nulldrifters in my first draft, and I'm just like, we just need to main deck 4 Snares. So, the snares are feeling like really like kind of what sold me on starting here today to some extent. Would be pester give up my blasting up this. It is, yeah, Flame. That's actually why I started to work on this. Is our chat about your build of the blast. I thought your build would look good too. I just really wanted to do this. Mikhail with the 10 months. Thank you. Welcome back. Appreciate you. And then besides the snares, also like our mana curve is like pretty high. Like, we would have like 4 1s, 4 2s, a lot of 3s, 4s, 5s, 7s. I guess there's some more 2s here, but you're pretty likely to get a chunky blast if you just all natural it. I had more Nulldrifters in my first draft, but that's okay. Nulldrifter's kind of mid. In fact, I've been kind of thinking a little bit about Wilderness Reclamation as an archetype, and I've been thinking that potentially Brainsurge is a big reason to play Reclamation. Think cheating the new Overlords could have some lags. Nassif has been flickering them. Yeah, I mean, welcome to the channel. We've been doing a lot of that. We've been Felia Black Overlording. We've been Hexmage Black Overlord. We've Living in Black Overlord. We've played Green Overlord of Devotion. Yeah, we've done a lot of it. Do you end up preferring Arcanist or Raptor, Rakdos, Gens? Arcanist, and we're going to be playing a little bit more of the archetype as the backup deck today. Over Archmage's Charm. I'm not sure exactly what you play over it. Okay, I know we just talked about always spell snaring. I think this is the rare no snare. We did talk about Ridden 6 Besage You. Maybe Rekka's back on the menu. Yeah, maybe. I just want to save this for a Ruby. Maybe if we want to, we can build. So I could Calibrated Blast, deal 10. It's a little bit weird because I have to fetch if I want to. Yeah, let's go top. Upkeep. Put you to 9. Draw the Kozilek's command. And now we hold up the Spell Snare. And then what we could do is next turn we can go Ugin's Lab and print Emrakul, scry draw for a ton, and then use the Scalding Tarn and the Talisman to flash back the Calibrated Blast to kill them. I know Standard isn't your area, but I think Elves has a shot with Foundations, Archer, and Elite. I mean, it's just like I could not tell you. It does seem better to untap and do this because we just have We just have a lot of looks. And I guess I can just keep up second snare now if I brick. I think we'll be okay probably. I guess Nulldrifter doesn't get them. Right. So we go bottom, 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 top, 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 top. Blast you. So we're going to game 2 on the Dragon Storm. We have all of our snares in the main deck, so don't have like much of a sideboard plan for them at the moment. I think I'm just going to bring in a couple consigns for the rubies. Pretty excited for this deck, or just getting a little weird with it. I mean, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. Thanks again, Plane Shift for the 21. I think this deck needs a Beseiju who shelters all. Maybe the sideboard. I don't know if I would main deck it. Do you get the sense that Gore is listed misspelled? I don't get Ulamogs or more Gristlebrand's. Numbers feel all over the place in the list. I do get that sense. I'm a big believer in the first Gristlebrand over the first Ulamog. I think I could probably be convinced that the second or the first Ulamog is better than the second Gristlebrand. I think that's probably something I could be sold on. Puts it on Mold 5. I'm going to join them here. I can keep this. And then I'm going to put back, I think, just 2 labs. I'm surprised there are no results with Brood Scale and Scales yet. Yeah, so I started to build it last night. It's pretty tough to build. It's pretty tough to build. But I feel like I was getting pretty close. Maybe that's something we'll like get to tomorrow or something. Do I have a cold? I think it's allergies. It could be a little bit of a cold. I don't think it's COVID. I feel like pretty good right today. I just like a little sniffly still. But it's like it got really triggered when I came home from Vegas and my sister had or my dogs had got sprayed by a skunk and my sister let them in the house. And so the whole house smelled like gasoline and onions and it was pretty gnarly. Joe with the 6 months. We're tier 1 for 6 months in advance. Let's go, dude. Appreciate you. You had COVID like 3 months ago? I had COVID like a year ago. I know time is flying. I got COVID from Pioneer Atlanta RC about a year ago. Oof. Maybe 11 months. Throwing the sister on the bus on national TV. Yeah, that's okay. All right, let's snare. Don't veil me. Probably kind of cooked with that passing flames in the yard too. Yes. All right, game 3 on the play. Time for a streamer, and I guess for everybody, is an illusion. Well, I'm keeping this one. This hand could be a turn 3 Ulamog kill. If we can surveil into a land, and we have a snare. Okay, I heard Esther go, Lucy, no. And then I heard Esther sigh and walk into the room, so.
Well.
They destroy the cushions?
It's not too bad, but there is, like, on the big cushion that we are on, is, like, the first layer is, like, peeled on a spot.
Okay, well, we'll deal with it later. Okay, thank you, sweetie. We're washing, like, the covers of the couch, and I guess the dogs are tearing them up. Spooky with the 47 months. Thank you. Welcome back. You know, maybe I should have just bottomed that. I kind of just didn't have it in me to not Calibrated Blast them for 15. And then I don't want to draw the Emrakul, so I'm just going to do this, but... Would have drawn a land. Or sorry, Talisman. I would not have drawn a land. Yeah, there's basically just no... I should have surveilled it to the yard. Hopefully we don't, die here. It seems kind of unlikely since we snared a ritual, or a Ral, and they lost a ritual. But they are thinking about it. Well, never punished, I guess. Alright, mulliganing this on the play. So this is a mull to 5. I think I'm almost always going to want to go turn 2 Nulldrifter, and I think I'm going to keep Brainsurge over the mountain. I just hope to draw land. Speaking of Brood Scale, alright, so I guess the Lrien Revealed could do a land impression. I may go Kozilek's command, make a spawn, exile my Nulldrifter so that my Ulamog can annihilate her 7. My opponent finds an Urza Saga here. I don't know if it's go scales with 6 can help you refire the combo. Yeah, I've thought about 6. There's a lot of ins and outs to the case, Mere Scrappling? Okay, but this is almost assuredly just a one of Saga target, I guess. I am gonna go for the spawn token exile my Nulldrifter line, which is, of course, a bit odd. But this does just mean if I draw any untapped land, I get to win the game. If I don't, I get to Brainsurge, so it seems like a good enough place to be. Unfortunately, we drew a tap land. So I will probably Brainsurge sacking to spawn if my opponent plays a Brood Scale. So I can look for a Spell Snare off of the Brainsurge. Scrappling is a solid way to jumpstart. Is it? Because, isn't the problem with the Brood Scale combo is, if your opponent just kills your Brood Scale in response to the equip, there's no way you can do the combo in response. They can just kind of always wait for the equip. You could make some extra spawns by putting counters on Brood Scale in response, but if your opponent just plays patiently, you're kind of boned. What's the interaction that makes Exile Null better than Scry? Ulamog needs a card in exile, a card to be in exile for it to enter with counters. Alright, so we can Calibrated Blast them for lethal the turn after we threw the breach here. Annihilator 7. You have 7 permanents, you can make an 8th. They decided perhaps unwisely to not make an 8th permanent here. Maybe they thought they would have an extra window or something. They take 14, and then they're going to take 15 more on my upkeep. Last year. So I'm going to play the Consigns, of course. I haven't been the biggest Pyroclasm fan against them. I think it's okay. Fire Ice being an instant is probably better for the most part. I think I want to play the full force Snare. Snare seems so insane against them. Don't think I want to cut the Fire Ices. I'm just not sure what else we would cut. We could cut some Talismans, maybe. We could cut an Ulamog. Let's cut an Ulamog and a Talisman. Magus is probably decent. The thing is, Magus is basically just an anti-Titan card. Magus is like really good against me, but I think it's still a card I want to have for the Titan matchup, and I'm just gonna board out like my Kozilek's commands. That's at least the current plan. I'm not even sure it's correct. It's like kind of weird and experimental, but that matchup just seems like maybe a little bit too tough without cheese card. I haven't been watching Modern WoW. Why did Pyroclasm come into favor? The most popular deck in the format is called Boros Energy, and Pyroclasm is very good against it. McFluff with the 53 months. Thank you. Welcome back. Appreciate you. I think I'd like to wait on the command if possible. Not sure if it is possible or like it seems like I'm gonna be wanting to consign next turn, which is just like maybe I could be commanding on turn 4. But it just kind of seems like maybe just resolving it now could be better. It also maybe was better for me to no, never mind. Sorry, I might want to just be able to. I might just want to be able to hardcast this because I don't have anything in exile for my Through the Breach right now. Which was maybe another reason to wait on the command. But if they're just making some constructs, we should have a good amount of time. I don't think I really care to consign this. My opponent grabs Grafdigger's Cage, which does stop the flashback of Calibrated Blast, but doesn't really do anything else. So if they cast Blade of the Bloodchief, they cast a Scrapling. I'm going to blast in response. So there's a good chance I'll just kill a construct depending on what we hit. We hit an Ulamog, so I'm just going to smack them for 10. You know, one funny thing about Magic sometimes is it's like when they bring in a sideboard card that like isn't really good against you, and they think it's good against you, but it just kind of happens to be a weird game where it's like it's much better than it would usually be. You know what I mean? Like this is a spot where we're just kind of on a double like natural Calibrated Blast draw where we don't have Brainsurge to set it up, which means this cage is going to be a lot better than it usually would be. So I think I'm going to block a construct, exile the other one, and then scry draw. And if I can see a big... I'm leaving up Consign, of course. And if I can see an Eldrazi on top, I can blast in my upkeep and just leave both on top. So no Eldrazi. And there's still no card in exile. I mean, maybe I was supposed to exile my Lrien Revealed and get Annihilator 5. Yeah, I was going to bottom both. Consign is, okay, bad, actually. 2 cards in their hand. I'm at 13. Against a Fleshraker, it's kind of scary. They put a counter on. Should upkeep the blast, huh? I think I'm just main phasing. Sometimes it's just easy. You can activate Scrapling in response if you want. Okay, 0-2 and a 2-0. Glad we gave it another go, I guess. On the play. I I have to mulligan my double tap land hand here. Go to 5. I'll probably cough less if I'm standing. I'm curious about your goal with brewing. Do you see 3-2 as a success or a failure? Are you trying to discover interesting playable decks or discover the next meta deck when you brew? Okay, good question. Let me resolve this real quick. So as far as like one league 3-2, a 3-2 off stream and testing is for something fresh is oftentimes pretty good. I think it's, you know, brewing in modern is difficult to do, and a winning record with your first draft of a deck is usually a good sign. It is, I suppose, always the goal to try to break it. It's always the goal to try to make a new meta deck. But as far as like that being something that is realistically something that you can do, is it just isn't something you can realistically do with any degree of consistency. Without like new cards coming out all constantly, or I mean, when there isn't a banning, when there isn't new cards coming out, it's just not that likely you're going to be able to break the format. So usually, you know, discovering something that are interesting, discovering, you know, exploring underplayed interactions, exploring stuff that is underexplored, figuring out packages of cards. It's very important, and that's what I try to do. It's very important so that when new cards get printed, when bannings happen, when shakeups happen, then you have already explored all of these things, and then you are able to potentially discover that new meta deck. It's all about putting in the work ahead of time, so that when you know the metagame changes or bannings happen or new cards get printed, you've put in the work so you can build the new decks. It's not you're just not able, at least I'm not able, to have all the weird craziness that goes with Modern without really just exploring every corner of the format. And that's what this stream is about. Exploring every corner of the format, trying to brew competitively, and having successes and having failures. Alright, so anyways, I started blasting. If they counterspell this, I don't think I'm going to use my snare. Well, can't use snare on that. A little bit disappointing for it to be perma-exiled, I suppose. Here, why don't we just go ahead and surveil and just see if there's an Emrakul on top of our library. Well, they've already used one Force of Negation. You've already used one Force of Negation. Why me, huh? Why me? Now I've got an Emrakul on top of my library. Do I have a system? How do you keep track of all the existing combinations to be tested, remembering something like missing effect and so forth? I don't really have a system, but the thing is, it's like, you know, I don't stay that far ahead of the stream. So it's like a lot of the ideas that I've been working with lately, I'm working on them every single day, and then if I feel like they're just too stuck, I stop working on them and until something changes, and it's just usually not that hard to circle back to it. But yeah, I could maybe be a bit more organized. Following up brewing question, how do you generally come up with underrated cards combos? Do you go over random cards until you say, hey, this one looks cool? No, that is probably the worst way to do it. Going through like Scryfall random or whatever until there's a good cool card. That seems incredibly inefficient. I have brainstorming sessions. I am going through old deck lists. I try to think about the format. I try to think about cards that could be good in the current existing format. I try to think about cards that I haven't played very much that I've been meaning to get to that are kind of on my to-do list. But it's maybe just kind of simply, I do this full time. I do this for hours every single day. I'm always working on stuff, and I've been doing it for years and years at this point. And like that is kind of like, okay, weird. Maybe that was snare. Like there's no secret juice. There's no you know, oh man, I just go through Scryfall random until I find a cool card. There's no like, I'm just so big brain. I just put in, you know, thousands and thousands of hours every year. That's all there really is to it. All right, through the breach on the top. Let's go. Roll to 5, win against Dimir. Damn it. Yeah, secret juice. Should make a spreadsheet. They're really helpful for organizing products. Yeah, I mean, I could make a spreadsheet. I agree. It would be helpful. All right, if I don't top deck through the breach or like Kozilek's command, we'll probably pack it in. I have written a couple articles on Channel Fireball. I would assume they're still up. Outlining my brewing process too, and like talking about having ideas. And I did one that's like about having ideas and one that's about tuning ideas. So if you're very curious, I would encourage you to dig that one up. I mean, my opponent did just top deck, so I think I'm gonna not hold up the snare. Nah, no, let's hold up the snare. You see, you the Temur breach. This is pretty interesting. So obviously I'm keeping through the breach on top. Yeah, through the breach on top. It could be correct for me to bottom this and look for a land so that I can snare. It's also maybe right for me to just Kozilek. I think I should bottom and just like be all in on through the breach resolving next turn. You think Temur breach deck is fine without ring? I'll say this. This has been a very common thing for like the last month, and is like chatters keep going, hey Spike, do you think my deck is going to be fine when the ring is banned? What do you think I should do when the ring is banned? What, you know, this and that. We don't know that the ring is going to be banned. The modern format is going to look very different with the ring banned. I think modern would probably be better if it was. But it's just too much to talk about, especially when, if it does happen, we're going to have to talk about it nonstop every single day. It's just like, let's just cross that bridge when we come to it. Temur breach, yes, is a deck that can function without the ring. Well, we played to drawing snare. We did not, or to land for snare. They did top deck a counterspell, unfortunately for me. We can draw another through the breach though, because we're going to 9 if they don't have an Oculus under one of these manifest tokens, or Frog, I guess. I think that the format probably gets a lot more interesting without the ring at this point. I think that I'm pretty excited to explore decks like Jeskai Control and Eldrazi without the ring, trying to figure out alternate win cons. And my opponent does play around it. Yeah, then I guess we would go to 2. Should we draw the breach and resolve it? I think a lot of people also ask because they don't want to buy rings. Sure, but it's yeah, but like I understand. But I'll say this too, and like this is I'm a big hater of the scheduled BNR announcement release structure. I think it's very bad. And like part of the reason why it's so bad is that the idea behind it is that people can only worry about bans during ban season, that they can enjoy the formats because we have the scheduled BNR announced dates. In actuality, it generates a lot of anxiety about, oh, what's happening in December? What's happening in December? How do I plan for December? So let me ask Spike about December. And for me, I just want to try to enjoy the format and figure it out while we're here, and then closer to ban season, talk more about it. But I understand why we're having this conversation. It's just because scheduled bans are garbage. It is just a bad way to manage formats. I really dislike the scheduled bans. It makes my streaming experience worse. It makes your anxieties worse. It makes formats worse because they just go on too long without bans that are needed. It's tough. And also, like, I do kind of think that, like, with like their reasoning for banning Grief was like for fun stuff, like to make the format more fun. If they wanted to ban a card to make the format more fun, it was definitely Ring. It was definitely Ring. Grief was not doing so much in the format when it was banned. And so I'm worried that they don't want to ban the Ring because it's so iconic. because this is, to some extent, like the ring is like their iconic modern card, and I think they really do not. They want it to be a part of the format. So like, to everyone that is just like, who keeps saying in the chat, when the ring gets banned, y'all are acting like it's a foregone conclusion. It is not a foregone conclusion that the ring is going to be banned. Well, it's not a bad top deck. Perfect card to restrict, change your way, wizards. I don't know. I really, it's like, I think it's so annoying that like, if the ring is just called anything else, if the card is even, if the card is called Sauron's Ring, nobody thinks about restricting it. I don't know, maybe they would, but it's just like, Magic cards are game pieces first in my mind, and pieces of flavorful things second. And I always hate when, or hate is a strong word, but I don't like when people are suggesting making gameplay changing decisions about what are ultimately like flavorful characteristics of a card. I would just really prefer to see that not be the case. You want to respond to the Labyrinth triggers, you could draw an imprintable here potentially. I do not like to see gameplay decisions be based on flavor. I think it is just not something you should ever do. It's, for me, it's just, I think silly. I think it's silly that it's something we've been talking about this long. I'm a big, big thumbs down for me on this one. Okay, so I guess we go, just keep that through the breach on top. The ring will be, if people keep saying it will, squeaky wheel gets the grease kind of thing. I don't know. I don't really think this is true. I don't. You can believe in manifesting a ban if you want to. I'm not gonna stop you or anything. But to say that Wizards just will ban it, is people who have been complaining about it for a long time. Like a year and a half at this point. And they do listen to this kind of feedback, but to say that like it just will inevitably happen, I think is not the case. Tap land in response, and then force of negation. Okay, force pitch sink. Too bad I couldn't dispute that. Do you believe being able to have 9 Nazgul in the deck is a big design fail? No, I think that it's fine. If the ring came out designed, you could only have one copy of the ring in this deck. Designing cards with flavor is fine. Banning cards for flavor is not fine. Errataing cards for flavor is something I disagree with. I kind of don't understand how this is so hard to get across. There's always someone trying to like debate lord me about this stuff. I feel like it is just so clear and so easy to see what the stance is, to not make to not errata a card for flavor after it's been printed and been around for a year and a half. It is just something I think should not happen. I don't know why we have to have this conversation so often and get debate lorded. You think the Nazguls are a design fail? What the fuck are we talking about? If you want to main phase this, we're more likely to win the fight with the disputes here. Okay, don't see much reason to main phase the Talisman. I guess if they have like a deluge. So I think we're going to go for a big Kozilek's command end of turn. Potentially one that will allow me to just hardcast Emrakul, actually. 5, 6, 7, 8, plus 4, 12. So if I can get +3 mana, or maybe just +2 mana off the K commands, could be in there. Yeah, it seems like I should just do this. And then, okay, so this would be 6, 10. Yeah, if I have to find a land on top and keep the land on top in order for the Through the Breach to resolve. If they have a replicated Consign, this is a bit annoying. But if they have a replicated Consign, I may be able to still dispute, tap them out. No, it's replicated, yeah. We may just be screwed then. We can still Through the Breach with dispute up, so we're just not going to be able to beat every combination of stuff, I suppose. It would just be 1 card restricted, but I said this forever ago, about Field of the Dead and Sanctuary. I don't know. So the thing is, it's just 1 card restricted. You just restrict the ring and never restrict anything else. It's this is a fine stance to have. You're allowed to have this opinion. In my opinion, I think it's silly. I think it's just silly to ever restrict something for flavor reasons, to just make a game piece gameplay decision for flavor reasons. I think you should never do it. And if you think it'd be fun, that's fine. You can. This is a stance you can have. I respect your ability to have this stance. I do think it's pretty silly. All right, so we need to find an untapped land in the top 7 cards here. Well, if it's for both flavor and for gameplay reasons, not flavor, does that make a difference? No, it's not both. It is not both, and you know it. It is just a flavor decision. Wait, is this not enough? It's enough. You know it's not both. It's but this is modern. We have ban lists. We don't have restricted lists. Things are too good or they're not too good. Okay, let's go. The only reason we're considering not banning it is because it says the 1 in the name. All right, going to game 3. Companion was errated. The alternative was banning every card with mechanic. They don't do that. Yeah, Companion was errated for power level reasons, for gameplay reasons. I think you can errata for gameplay reasons, not for flavor reasons. It's a reason to start the conversation because the precedent has been set in Vintage. The thing is this is also a silly argument to say Vintage restricts the cards. Is that what you're saying? Because that just is the only reason the Vintage format exists, is so you have a place you can play the banned cards. They're restricted because an environment with 4 of Black Lotus, Ancestral Recall, Time Walk it's not even Magic the Gathering at that point. It's Solitaire. It's win your coin flip, you win. So Vintage has to exist in a restricted format because 1, you need an environment where you can play your restricted cards. If a card exists, it should be played unless it just doesn't function like Shahrazad or Chaos Orb. So that's the only reason Vintage exists, is so you can have an environment where you can play these iconic cards. It's a big exception to the rule. There are tangible gameplay reasons, though. Multiple copies of the ring negate the downside of it. I think that is a fine argument. Y'all are not. Maybe I just never do a good job articulating my point. If they took Blast, maybe they have Surgical. I hope they don't have Surgical. Jeez, I just drew another one. But what I'm trying to say, and I guess I've done a bad job saying, is this is my stance. Y'all can have your stance. I'm very hard light on this one. This is not one I'm really going to be changing my mind on, most likely. I understand why y'all want to restrict it, though. I get it. I've heard it 1,000 times. Do really want this to resolve, actually. So my opponent has missed their third land, and so are we. I don't think I'm going to Brainsurge into turn, unless my opponent taps out. Then we're going to Brainsurge and win the game. You need a big posting background. I hate the ring too. Maybe. Anyway, I support a ban. Support a ban. We'll see what happens in December. I mean, December is not that far away. It's, you know. Does anyone know when in December it is? Alright, I blast. I surge. They force. Okay. Force pitch Murktide. December 16th, thank you. Christmas time. Yeah, sorry, I know everybody's tired of this conversation. I shouldn't have let it go on so long. I just get so stun locked, as y'all I'm sure know. Well, can't K command right now, so I think we'll just cast a blast. Hopefully see an Emrakul. Hope we don't get Force of Negation. Okay. Their main phase is Murktiding before even hitting me with Frog. Then they discard an Oculus. Then they hit me to 17. Hopefully the two cards are not Black Source Unearth. I still don't have my second colorless mana. I'm going to go ahead and flashback. Sorry for all the sniffles. I wish there was something I could do. I revealed an Ulamog the Defiler. So I think I'm going to hit this Murktide Regent with the hopes of drawing a colorless land, and I can go Kozilek's Command plus Snare. They did have the Unearth. I guess that makes sense with them discarding the Oculus. Although I think some amount of the time they are just discarding it because they don't have a graveyard anymore. A colorless land would be really, really nice. Instead, we draw another Ulamog. All right, let's flip an Emrakul. They could have a Consign, though. I flip a Calibrated Blast. All right. Tough game. Tough game. Thought we could maneuver around that one. Those Force of Negations, like the double Force of Negation in Game 1 and Game 3 was so tough. Like Game 1, we just... maybe them casting it was a big tell they had the second. I don't think we can ever play around it. One of my favorite eras during Modern Horizons 2 Modern. This hand's really, really good if we draw any double land, and it's like keepable if we draw any land. So I think I'm going to keep it because we have a Surveil. One of my favorite eras in like the Modern Horizons 2 environment was when Murktide Regent was the most popular deck by a lot. When it was the most popular deck by a lot, and it was something that everyone was complaining about online. This was the era that I loved, because boy, that deck was just so beatable. Murktide was just like the most beatable deck ever. It was so easy to exploit, and it was so easy to exploit while also like having game against everything else, and we could just cook forever. And I just loved... Every single time I saw like a big content creator complaining about the dominance of Murktide, I just got so happy, because I'm just like, cool, we just get to play, we get to do this for like a little bit longer. We get to live like this for longer. I would have lived like that forever. It was just so no land. It was just such a good time. Blue-Red Murktide was much more manageable than Blue-Black Frog, though. Yeah, but the power level of the format is higher. Blue-Black Frog is also very weak to Graveyard Hate. It's, like, much more weak to Graveyard Hate than that deck was. Blue-Black Frog is pretty manageable, I think. I've enjoyed playing against it with most decks. If Dimir Frog ends up being the most popular deck in Modern, it's probably going to be a great thing. Like, yeah, the Asmo decks, I've just been farming it. It's just like, oh, so fun. I would hate Dimir Frog, most popular deck. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's okay. I mean, of all the decks that are popular right now, I that's the one that I'm rooting for to rise to dominance. So still no land. Come on, divination. I think we're supposed to do this. We could go Talisman and hold up Fire Ice. Okay, let's play Rakdos. Let's play Rakdos. Really, I think Frog makes it more resilient to Graveyard Hate. No, I mean Frog is like kind of weak to Graveyard Hate too. Like it doesn't have flying. It's like it's.